story of Genesis, the story of Adam and Eve, the story of the garden, the story of the snake, is one of those fundamental storylines of good and evil, etc., that a lot of us are familiar with. Sometimes we get so familiar with a story that we retell a narrative that we think is there. Part of the beautiful thing about the Hebrew scriptures and the story in Genesis 1 and 2 and 3 is that it leaves a lot of gaps. It's very concise, and those gaps allow questions that become part of the unfolding way to look at it. There'll be some surprises, but I think it's absolutely consistent with space that's inside the story. It's just that we don't think about it. We think we know what the story says, we think we know exactly how it unfolds, and we bring those assumptions to any time we hear about it again. Inside this crafting of the narrative, I'm looking at the spaces in between what's given us, as well as staying true, I think, scholastically and academically, but telling the story in such a way that's accessible to a teenager, and yet drawing out things that are beautiful and true, that are in there, but we've missed it because of our assumptions. For me, fiction gives a huge amount of latitude that nonfiction doesn't. There is a sense that, you know what, you matter inside this conversation in a way that I'm not just trying to convince you to see things the way I do, but it just opens up a creative space. I think fiction comes at you much more as a whole person than just as a mind. I'm hoping that one of the takeaways for people is that they have a greater sense of who they are as a human being. And then we can begin to celebrate the things that make us different and distinctive as gifts, not as points of greater division.